Welcome back to Jersey Matters. I'm Larry Mendte. Big news out of Trenton. The governor, as you know, wants to borrow $9.9 billion, and that passed right through the legislature. But now, because of lawsuits, it's going to be tied up for a short amount of time in the New Jersey Supreme Court. They're going to have the final decision. So we checked in with an expert about what happens next. Suzette Parmley covers the Supreme Court for the New Jersey Law Journal. Suzette, thank you so much. I appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you, Larry.
So this lawsuit that is challenging the $9.9 billion in borrowing by the state of New Jersey, explain what the issues are here.
Well, the issues are you've got the Republican State Committee basically suing the governor of New Jersey for this action of wanting to borrow $9.9 billion to plug a massive fiscal hole created by the pandemic, which pretty much shut off all revenue streams. If you look at it as a spigot, the spigot just turned off since March 9th, where the government had to shut down all businesses, all retail, all offices. Mostly all offices are still closed in the state, including law firms. These businesses, Larry, created the sales, income, and corporate business tax revenue that the state critically depends on each year to fund the annual budget. And that basically is in a minus negative column right now of $9.9 billion, just to get through this fiscal year and the next fiscal year. The governor in February, as you recall, his budget address called for a $40.2 billion budget. That was roughly about a month before the pandemic hit and the so-called emergency lockdown was imposed. So since March 9th, there's been a trickle, barely anything coming into state coffers. And what this has done is force the governor's hand to basically turn to a legislative measure to borrow $9.9 billion, which the Senate and the Assembly passed by majorities a week and a half ago.
What I understand, the complaint by Republicans and other citizens groups as well is that there was no transparency in this. And by the New Jersey Constitution, they're supposed to have a referendum when they borrow, especially that much money. So I guess the argument from the other side is that this is an emergency.
It is an emergency, and there is absolutely that clause in the state constitution since 1847 that says there is a limit to borrowing. And it's only, the exception is the only exception to that is when government is in a shortfall. But there was an exemption, there was a revision to the Constitution that says that exception to voter approval can occur only if it's an act of God, meaning mostly like natural disasters, hurricanes or floods. The Republicans are suing the governor because they're saying, you know, the pandemic does not fall under the act of God exemption in the Constitution. You needed voters to approve this, which you completely bypassed. And you fast-track this legislation within a matter of days. That is unconstitutional, Governor. We're going to sue you, and we're going to try to stop this.
What is the timeline for all of this? They're fast-tracking this, aren't they?
It is very fast-tracked because the Senate president made it clear when, you know, he introduced he had an announcement on Friday that they reached an agreement with the governor for this legislation for $9.9 in borrowing. This is how fast it moved. By Monday, it went through the Senate Appropriations Committee. It passed. By Tuesday, it went through the Assembly Appropriations Committee. And then by Thursday of that week, it was approved by the Senate and the Assembly. So we're looking at 5 days. It moved through lightning fast. We're thinking within a week or 2 weeks, the Supreme Court should come down with a decision after August 5th, after the August 5th oral arguments, 10 a.m. next Wednesday in Trenton.
So August 5th arguments, and you think shortly after that there will be a ruling?
It's got to be expedited, Larry, no question, because the budget shortfall, budget stopgap measure is only through September 30th. By October 1, if state government doesn't have this so-called $9.9 billion shortfall ameliorated by some sort of borrowing money, everything shuts down. There's nothing, government services, government workers will lose their jobs. It's that critical, and time is beyond of essence in the situation because of the pandemic.
Well, you've laid out a case pretty well, and also in New Jersey, the Supreme Court members and other court members, to that matter, are not elected like they are in other states. They are appointed by the governor.
Yes.
So does that tell us where this is going?
Well, Lance versus McGreevy in, I believe, 2005, the outcome didn't go the governor's way because the Supreme Court said, yeah, you want to borrow, to make up for a budget shortfall, but borrowed money is not revenue. It doesn't fall under the constitutional provisions. So this is not a slam dunk for the governor. If you are working strictly within the confines of the state constitution, the Supreme Court will likely come up with an exemption, given the emergency crisis that the pandemic has created, to go around that little exemption that says you had to have voter approval on this.
Right. I know you cover the Supreme Court, but you also cover politics in Trenton.
Yes.
What is the plan B? You say it's not a slam dunk. If the Supreme Court says, no, you can't borrow that money, what happens?
Speculation is they'll let them borrow some money. Whether or not it's going to be the whole $9.9 billion is going to be up to question. But what the reasoning or the thinking is by observers is the Supreme Court will make an exemption, and it might state, here's the money you need, but it can only be towards pandemic-related costs. You cannot use it for any other reason that maybe other government spending. This has to stay true to its need, which is costs related to the pandemic or losses in revenue caused by that pandemic. You can't just take it and run with it and spend it on anything you want.
It'll be fascinating to watch, and I hope you'll be able to join us again and just explain the ruling to us. So thank you very much. That was Suzette Parmley with the New Jersey Law Journal. When we come right back, New Jersey restaurants want the state to reimburse them when the governor changed his mind about reopening. They laid out some money. They want it back. We'll tell you if that's a possibility when Jersey Matters comes right back.